everyone. Welcome into another episode of the Inside Voice podcast. Thank you so much for being here, spending another week with me. Thank you for liking and subscribing and sharing. I mean, that is really humbling, but at the same time, it makes me really proud of what we're doing here at the Inside Voice podcast. I feel like you can be humble and proud at the same time. You can know that you're putting out something wonderful, but also be totally humbled that people actually care. So I'm going to hold both of those feelings simultaneously. Last week, we talked about integrity. We talked about this idea that how you do anything is how you do everything. And oftentimes when you hear that phrase, you think, well, that means if I don't make my bed in the morning, then my life is going to be terrible. You know what I mean? But I wanted to turn it on its head and encourage you to find the things that you're doing that are good, that you can apply those same principles, those same practices and traditions to other aspects of your life that you would like to improve on, or even the big things that you're chasing. You know, you might think that, well, I eat really well and I do well with my nutrition, but that's not going to help me with this business that I'm going to start. Well, actually, there's probably things and practices and there's probably habits that you've established to eat well that could help you start that business. So find what those things are, apply them to the bigger thing that you're chasing after, and vice versa. We ended last week. Well, first of all, I would love to know what you discovered. I would love for you to shout out in the comments the things that you discovered that you are good at. And, you know, we left off last week saying, let's take the phrase, how you do anything is how you do everything, and turn it more into how you do anything. That's how you're going to do the thing that's important to you. So I would love to know what you discovered and how you've used those things that you are good at to chase after things that maybe you're trying to do a little bit better, or even the new things that you are running after in life. And I know you've got big, beautiful dreams for yourself. That's why you are here. We left off last week talking about mindset and how I thought that that might be a good thing for us to talk about this week. So let's dive in. And when I think of mindset, I used to think of mindset as, oh, I got to be positive. You know, like if I'm in the gym and I'm doing a really heavy lift and I feel like I'm not going to be able to get another rep out, I just have to think positively. I have to be like, hey, Jess, you can do this, like coach myself into it. And granted, that's a really good thing to do. That's a really good strategy. And I'm not saying you shouldn't do that. I think that people that find positives in life, I think people that speak positively about themselves and to themselves, talked a little bit about that last week. I think those people tend to be more successful at the things that they set their mind to, because you are rewiring your mind to think, what if, and I can, rather than I'm awful, I'm terrible, I never am going to be able to do this, you know? But it's so much deeper than just the positive thinking. I think it's putting on this new mindset, fostering this new mindset that allows you to think about your future self. You take this idea of your future self, the person that you're trying to become, the lifestyle that you're trying to step into, the passions and purpose that you're chasing. You take that future image of yourself, that future vision of yourself, and you put that on. So that way, every day when you wake up, you're waking up as that person. Every time that you go to the kitchen to make something to eat, you're putting on that person. Anytime you step into a meeting with people, you're putting on that person. You're putting on this person that you are becoming, this person that you are called to be, this purpose that you've been called to chase and to move into. When we can apply that to everyday things, when we can apply that into our everyday lives, man, I think that that might be one of like the game changers in your life. I think that could really change a lot for you because it makes you analyze things, you know, and it makes you show up for things differently than maybe you have in the past. Speaking of the past, we tend to ruminate so much on the past. And it's easy to do that. It's easy to fall into that cycle of thinking about the past, thinking about what was, whether it was good or bad. You know, we think about it because we've lived it. It's a known thing in our life. We experienced it. So it's easier for us to latch onto that because it's what we know. You know what I mean? Regardless if we accept it or not, regardless if we want to remember it or not, we hold on to it because it's a known in our life. And there's so much about today and there's so much about the future that we don't know about. But I'm going to tell you right now, setting your mind on things in the past is not going to propel you forward. You know, you're going to get into this shoulda, coulda, woulda. You're going to get into this notion of romanticizing what happened in the past, and it's just gonna leave you stuck. You're either gonna have this idea of, well, it's never going to be as good as it was. Or, oh man, those were the heydays. That was when I was like, I was at my peak. You know what I mean? That doesn't motivate you to move forward. Or it could be, gosh, like it was so awful, or this was so terrible, or I made these mistakes. I could never do something in the future. I could never become this person or make these changes in my life because of the past. The past is done. It's gone. Take what you can from it that is good. Take what you can from it that is a lesson that you can learn, and use that as a tool as you move forward. But going backwards, I mean, that's not good for anybody. And I know I've used this analogy before, but like you can't drive a car looking behind you. Okay, now you're going to say, well, if you're going in reverse, you should look behind you. But that's still kind of sort of forward momentum. Like you are moving towards something as you're backing up. But you're not driving like this, you know? You're not going down the highway 80 miles an hour looking behind you or even really to the side of you. So if we set our minds ultimately, you know, as Christians, as we set our minds on things above, if we set our mind on Christ and furthering his kingdom, putting on that idea, putting on that future that he has for us, that future that has us, that gives us hope, you know, that gives us purpose. If we put that on us every single day, that is going to mold our every single day. That is going to mold our decisions. That's going to mold our habits. That's going to mold our behaviors. That's going to mold our emotions. And that is going to set us up for much more success in the future. That's going to set us up for more success in our everyday life. I would even encourage you that, you know, it says in the Bible for us to commit our works to the Lord. If we can commit every little thing to God, I think he gives us what we need in that moment. And to me, that's also thinking about a future self. That's you operating from this place of your future self. Because again, we serve a God that is outside of time, you know, like past, present, future, that means nothing to him, you know, so when he gives us that vision, he's given us that future self, and we can step into that. Like he's working with a full deck and we are working with just the hand that we've been dealt. But if we can keep our eyes on him, it's like he gives us that vision, he gives us that future, and then we can put it on and use that as we go through life. You know, I would love for you to think about the future. Think about just in general, you know, maybe this is something that God has given you, or maybe this is just something that you've had that desire in your heart. I think we all think about our lives. We all think about ourselves. What is it that you've been thinking about for the future? Maybe it is something very personal to you, like I want to be in control of my emotions. I want to be somebody who works out more often. I want to, you know, something that you're working on internally. I want to go to therapy and work on my mental health, you know, something like that. It could be something that is relational. It could be something that has to do with your family. I want my family to, you know, speak openly with one another about emotions, and to not speak to, you know, listen to respond, but to hear each other out. I want us to draw closer to one another and spend more time together. I want to spend more time with my friends, or I want to invest in them more. I want us to travel more. You know, there could be relational things. There could be business things. Maybe you've got an idea that you want to bring to fruition. Maybe you've got, a business idea that you are looking to implement and launch. Maybe there's an idea that you have for the company that you're working for that you want to present, and hopefully it turns into something really great because you know you've got this vision of what you think the company could do in the future. You've got an idea of who you want to be in the future. If I say, show me your future self, I think you could come up with some things, you know? It may seem a little overwhelming and daunting now. And I know we've talked about getting really granular and like having every single detail figured out. I think that is helpful to me as a visual learner. I like to have all the details, I like to be over prepared. But I think there are just some things that you're like, it would be nice if I had this in life. It would be nice if this happened, or if I lived here, or if I did this as a hobby or something like that. You've got an idea of what your future self looks like. So now that you've got that visual in your mind, let me ask you this. Is your life a reflection of that right now? Like the things that you're doing right now, every single day, the habits that you have fallen into or implemented into your life, the way that you spend your time, the way that you speak to other people, what you eat, what you consume visually or audibly, whether it's podcasts or television shows or movies, the music you listen to, the things that you are engaging in now, the things that you are doing now, your habits, your actions, your behaviors, if you kept those up, would those get you to where you want to be? That's a serious question that you have to ask yourself. And I ask myself that a lot. When I started on a fitness journey 5 years ago, it started off as a fitness journey. It has turned into just, this is my lifestyle. And the mindset has changed. And now I think about my future self and I'm like, what do I want to do? How do I want to honor this body that I've been given? How do I want to take care of it? And so, I mean, there was just a moment the other day where I wanted to just completely gorge myself on Whataburger. I was on a road trip. I was coming back from my in-laws and I was like, this sounds delightful. I'm going to what-a-size it. I'm going to get my number 4. I'm going to slap some avocado on it. I'm going to get the what-a-size. I'm going to do all the things, right? And I remember literally I'm on this road trip. I'm going through this little town where I know there's a Whataburger. I come to the stoplight. I'm in the turn lane to go to Whataburger. Like I am 2 turns away from placing my order. And the light turned red. So I stop at the red light and I'm sitting at this intersection. And I remember just having this conversation with myself of like, hey, this is going to be so good. Like it is going to taste good. You're going to love every single moment of it. It's going to be great. But when you get home, are you going to feel the same way about this? When you are done chugging down the Coke Zero that was what-a-sized, or the Sprite or the root beer, what are you going to feel after that? Are you going to feel good about yourself? Or are you going to feel very yucky? Like physically yucky because way too much food. But also, are you going to feel like you showed up for yourself well in this moment? And I was actually very thankful to have that red light because it made me consider like what decision I was about to make. And then I was like, well, am I even really hungry in this moment? No, I was not. I just wanted to eat. It was like I wanted to satisfy a gluttonous desire. And I know that sounds really dramatic, but like this is literally the conversation I was having with myself. Like, do you want to give into this behavior, or do you want to be really proud of yourself later on because you did not give into it? And I think a lot of times we just have to have that conversation with ourselves of like, hey, this may sound really good in the moment, but what is this going to do to my future? What is this going to do to future Jess? What is this going to do to future you? Are you going to feel really bad and really guilty and really heavy and really sluggish? Or are you going to feel really good about yourself because you made a better choice for yourself? Get real with yourself, okay? And when you've got that idea of the goal that you're chasing after, allow it to affect the decisions that you're making day in and day out, no matter how small they may seem. We talk a lot about small things adding up to make a big difference. One of the analogies I use is ants. One ant ain't gonna do a thing, but hundreds of thousands of ants, pretty strong. One drop of water is one drop of water. But an entire ocean of water, and suddenly like that's a powerful force. So you've got to be really, really careful with even the little things when you are, trying to become the best version of yourself, and when you're trying to chase after things that matter to you, when you're pursuing that purpose that you believe that has been placed on your life. So think about that. if we can get really clear on that vision of our future self, then we can allow that to dictate the decisions that we're making. And we do have to ask ourselves, who am I becoming with these actions? Am I becoming the person that I want to be with this habit or this action or this choice? And allow that to dictate how you move forward with those actions and those habits and those choices. We want so badly, especially when we're first starting out on pursuing anything that's worth our time, and worth our life on this earth, that calling that's been placed on our lives. We want so badly for the future just already be put on us. We want that perfect vision for our lives to just show up. And we feel like if we could just be given that thing, I could live so much better. But ultimately, that's not going to happen. Like, you're starting at your starting point, and there's work to be done. And I think a way that we can almost make that vision come to life immediately is to live in that vision as quickly as possible and as consistently as possible. We can't necessarily, and God's not going to do this for us. He's not just going to drop something on our lap. I've got a vision for this podcast of what I think that it could be and what I hope that it could be and the impact that it could make on other people's lives. But that's not just going to show up tomorrow. God's not just going to dump it on me and be like, here you go. There's a lot that needs to happen before then. There's a lot of work that needs to go into it. There's a lot of effort that needs to go into it, and a lot of preparation. And I honestly think that if we were given the things that we want, if that future self, if we could wake up tomorrow and that future self was who we are, I think that we would probably crash and burn. I think we would lose it because we're not prepared for it. There's a pruning process. There's a refining process that happens. And eventually the vision comes to life. I think about a sculptor and how, there's the clay, and the clay is just this, or the stone. We'll say, we said sculptor, so we'll do the stone. The stone is just like this chunk of rock, right? It's got a shape to it, but I don't think a lot of people would think, oh, that's a beautiful rock. But the creator, the master, the sculptor comes in, he starts chiseling away at this piece and that piece. And I don't know how people do this. I don't know how sculptors make this happen. They are starting with a thing that looks like this, and then they turn it into this gorgeous statue. And it's like they always had the vision. They always knew exactly what it was going to look like, but there had to be a lot of work and a lot of chiseling and a lot of turning and this way and that way that had to happen before it became what it is. I think our lives are the same way. I think God is our sculptor, and we are a work in progress. And as much as we want to just shake off all the excess stone and be this finished project, He is lovingly and graciously and carefully and meticulously and mercifully chiseling away at every little piece that doesn't belong, that doesn't need to be there. And He is turning us into this masterpiece. He's always seen the masterpiece within us. He created us to be a masterpiece. And I think that we just have to trust the process, and we have to, every day in our lives, trust that with that vision in mind, we can make the right decisions. Again, it's like we're taking that future self, that finished product, that statue, that masterpiece that's going to be in the Smithsonian. We have to keep that in mind as we make the decisions every step of the way. I think we need to get rid of this idea of perfectionism, get rid of this idea of the past, as we talked about earlier, and just focus on what's at hand, with that vision of what's to come. We need to get clear about that vision. And I think that if we can get clear on the vision, it's almost like we put it on ourselves as protection. We put it on ourselves as armor, or as a uniform as we go to work every single day. Life's going to throw a lot of stuff at you: distractions, temptations, failures, setbacks, annoyances, things that make you irritable. There's always going to be things that are coming at you left and right. I truly believe that anytime you push forward on something, there's resistance. And we talked about this when we talked about the laws of motion earlier in season 2. There's always a pushback. There's always something that is going to be coming at you. But also you can start to gain this momentum and push forward. And once you get that momentum going, man, it's like you're unstoppable. But putting on that future self, it's like that helps you, push away the things that are coming at you. It's like Matrix style, I guess, like you're leaning back and the things are flying at you and you're flying at you, but you got your vision, you've got what you're working toward and moving forward with. So how do you, it begs the question, like, how do you get clear on the vision? A lot of people will say, and I agree with this, you have to know your why. And Jesus is a great why. I'll be honest with you. Jesus told me to do this. I feel like Jesus is leading me to do this. Fantastic. Like that's a good why. But I think 3 things can really help us get clear. If you want to talk about tangible things, these are things that I think help us get clear on the vision that God has for our life. Number 1 is go to the Creator. I think about phones. I have my phone right here. I think about my phone, like this device came with an instruction manual. Did you read it? No. Nobody reads instruction manuals, right? But it came with instructions. It came with, here's how this thing operates. And you know who gave us that instruction manual? The person that created the phone. Same thing with other things that we engage with in our lives, like toasters or, cars or beauty products. There's always going to be an instruction, how to use, what to do if something goes wrong. The instruction manual is incredibly important because it came from the person that had the vision for what the product was going to be used for. So I think that's why it's so important for us that when we're looking for clarity, when we're looking for what we're supposed to be doing with our lives, we've got to go to the one that created the device. He's got the instruction manual. He'll give it to you. And if we can go on that tangent and that visual of like, well, the instruction manual is the Bible. He wrote the Bible. Go to the Bible. I'm a huge believer in that. But if you're looking for that vision in your life and you want to get super crystal clear with it, you have to go to the person that made you. You have to go to the person that made the plan for you. Like we talked about last week, he created you. He made you and formed you in your mother's womb. He also set this plan for you. Like he has a beautiful plan for your life, plans to prosper you, not to harm you, plans to give you a future and a hope. So if he made you and he made the plan, guess what? You fit into the plan, okay? So move forward with that confidence, but also know like he's taking you on this journey and you can go to him anytime you need clarity on what that vision is. So that way you can put that vision on, Another thing that I think helps us get clarity is action. We talked earlier about how God doesn't just all of a sudden, like if we told him, God, give me my vision tomorrow, like it's not going to be tomorrow that you have stepped into everything that he has for you. There's a journey that's involved here. And I think there's that phrase like God doesn't drive a parked car. You got to put the key in the ignition. You got to put it in drive and you have to hit the gas pedal. Like you've got to get moving. I think of so many people in my life and in history and in the Bible where they didn't have the full vision of what they were going into. Gosh, you think about Abraham, like God just told him, go to the land that I will show you. Doesn't that seem backwards? Like, I don't know. God, do you know how Google Maps works? Like you put the destination in and then it tells you how to get there. It doesn't just say get in your car, we'll see what happens next. But that's totally what God told Abraham. And so I want to encourage you to take action. And Abraham said, okay, I'll pack the bag. That was his first step of action. It wasn't like, okay, well, I'm gonna start heading east because I feel like, the wind is blowing that way. It must be east. No, he decided and his first action was, I'm going to pack the bag and get ready to go. So when you get that vision from God, when you see what the plan is for your future, I want you to do something that is a like it's an action that you're taking. It is a step of faith. I remember when God told me that I was going to be doing this podcast again. I shared this with you. I didn't know what the first episode was going to be like. I didn't know if I was even going to keep calling it the Inside Voice podcast. Like, I didn't know anything. But you know what I did? I bought this chair because I said, you know what? I'm going to buy a chair that I can sit in and I can record, because at the very least, I feel like video is going to be involved with this somehow, some way. So I bought the chair and I prayed about the chair. Let me pick a good chair. It's a good chair. I'm not going to lie. Like, God did well. But that was my step of faith. That was my, okay, God, I heard you. I'm going to buy the chair and then we're going to go from there. I trust that if I take this step, if I put something in motion, you will show me what is next and what is next and what is next and what is next. Sometimes you just have to take that first step, not knowing if the next step is going to be this way, that way, up, down, through water, through fire, through cactus, I don't know, whatever's on your journey. Like, you just have to take that first step, okay? Going back to the phone thing, it's like, you're going to have to turn it on. Okay, you can read the instruction manual all you want, but until you turn that phone on, you're not going to use it. So take that first step. And the last thing that I think that we do to get clarity on our future self, on the vision, on what God has for us, is we have what brings clarity in that vision is pivoting. You know, we're going to the creator, we're getting the instruction manual, we're taking the first step, we're going out in faith, believing in what he told us, but we're also understanding that like things are going to change, the vision's going to change. Or maybe not the vision's going to change, but you know, God's going to take you this way and that way to help you get to the vision. There's going to be detours, there's going to be setbacks, there's going to be pit stops, probably not to Whataburger because we don't want to be gluttonous, but you know, there's going to be little things here and there that are going to, like we talked about, things coming at you, resistance and distractions and temptations. Understanding that those are going to come and being flexible to pivot is incredibly important. If we're going to stick with this phone analogy, we've got the instruction manual, we've turned it on. There's going to be different things that you add to that phone to make it extremely useful for you. You know, there's going to be apps that you download. There's going to be a certain wallpaper that you put on it, even a case to put on it. You know, like there's going to be little things here and there that are going to either change the device a little bit, or they're going to change over time. You have to be able to pivot in order for the vision to get clearer and clearer. And this is why you have to take that first step, because you can't pivot if you never take that first step. You know what I mean? And also understanding that like updates are going to come. You know, I go back to my fitness journey a lot, but I think this is something that a lot of people put on a vision board or put on a New Year's resolution list or a let's get ready for summer list. Like, people talk about taking better care of their bodies and getting, you know, working out more or getting their health to a better spot or eating better. Like, none of that came immediately for me. It started with me moving my body. Then it turned into, how do I move my body best, where I show up for it every single day and I see results? And then it turned into, well, how much water should I be drinking? And then it also turned into, okay, well, now what should I be eating? And then how much of it should I be eating? And then there's this whole thing called macros, like what's in the stuff that I'm eating. It was like little steps here and there, little updates here and there. And as I got really good at one thing, I could move on and adjust another thing, or take on another task, or, you know, add something to the regimen. And it's like, that's what made me successful, because I could pivot. I could, you know, change things here and there. I could add things in if I wanted to. That pivoting is so incredibly important. And that's what makes the vision clearer. Okay. So if you're looking for clarity on your purpose, go to the creator, go to the one that designed all of it. Take action and be able to pivot along the way. I'm going to tell you right now, anxiety, it is the child of idleness. Like, idleness breeds anxiety. This is something that I have learned the last couple of years. I've shared with you that when my mom passed away in 2021, I made myself really small. I lost my mom suddenly. I lost my mom tragically. And it really it was traumatic. It really threw me for a loop. And I thought, if I make myself smaller, then maybe bad things won't happen. If I don't move too much, if I don't rock the boat too much, then maybe I'll be more attuned to what's happening around me, and I can pick up on things, and hopefully that will prepare me in case something else bad happens. You know what I mean? Well, that turned into me not doing anything, not trying anything, not putting myself out there, not exploring creativity, not showing up in big and meaningful ways because I was just afraid. And that has led me to such anxiety in my life. And we'll do a podcast about anxiety. I will share my struggles with you and what I've done to combat those struggles. But I will tell you right now, action has been such a huge reliever. It has been the antidote to anxiety and gratitude, but action is huge. And even stepping in here and doing this podcast and leaning into something that I know I should be doing but does scare me has made me feel less anxious in other aspects of my life, which has been beautiful. So I would love for you to get clear on your vision this week. If I were to give you homework, that would be the homework that I give you. Again, going back to what we started off talking about in this podcast, the more clear you can get on where you're headed, on what the vision is for your life, the more you can apply that to everything that you're doing in your life to breed more success. There's this, I don't know, this is how I hear it. I don't know if this is exactly how it's said in the Bible, and I don't know if this is me butchering it. But, there's this verse that says something along the lines of, where there is no vision, the people perish. If you don't have a vision for your life and you're not clear on your life, you will perish. You will lose your life. And I'm not saying fatally. That could happen. You could lose a vision of health for yourself and it could be detrimental. It could be fatal for you. Or I think it's just this idea of, if you don't have a vision, if you don't know what you are working towards and working in and what God has called you for and the plan that He has for your life, if you don't know that vision and that future self, you will perish because your life will just pass you by. You won't be an active participant in your life. You won't be taking action in your life. You won't be living your life. It's just going to happen to you, So I want to encourage you this week to really think about your future self. And as you make decisions throughout the day, apply that future self to those decisions. Like I told you, sitting at that red light, arguing with myself about Whataburger and whether or not I was going to give into that temptation or not, that was tough, But I knew that if I went all in the way that I wanted to go all in on that number 4, what a size, it was going to leave me feeling really, really bad later on in the day. And that's because I have a different vision for myself, whether it's a fitness vision, or a business vision or a personality vision or anything, what you want to be in this life. Allow that to affect the way you show up for things, the way that you execute throughout the day, the way that you operate, the way that you talk to people, the way that you drive, the way that you clean your house, allow that vision that God has for you, allow that vision of your future self to get into the minute details of your life. And I think it's going to change your life. It absolutely will. It has absolutely changed my life over the years, and it has changed my life, especially here and now, with bringing this podcast back. So I would love for you to think about that this week, if I could give you any homework. Again, the 3 things that I think help us get clear on our vision are going to the Creator, taking action, and being willing to pivot, being flexible. So remember that as you move forward, and make it a good week for yourself. I'll see you next week.